Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Youthman. Today is an exciting day, especially if you're a Polk Audio fan. Say hello to Reserve. This is going to be a fun video, but before we check out the new lineup, if this is the first time that you and I are meeting, thanks so much for stopping by the channel. My name is Michael Stevens with Youthman Reviews. I've been a content creator here on YouTube for about 3 years and a home theater enthusiast for the past 20 years. Now on this channel, I provide 2 to 3 videos per week on home theater reviews, tips, as well as tours. So if you're passionate about home theater like I am, hit that subscribe button and don't forget to hit that bell notification so that you'll be notified when the next video drops. I hadn't said that in a while, so I thought I'd just throw that in. So Polk Audio just announced 9 new speakers from their brand new Reserve series, which consist of 2 bookshelf speakers, the R100 and R200, 3 center channel speakers, the R300, a slim R350, and the R400, 3 floor standing speakers, the R500, R600, and R700, and a height module, the R900, which can either be mounted on top of a speaker for an up-firing Atmos speaker or mounted to the wall as a height module. The new Reserve series is available in matte black, matte white, and walnut wood grain finish. Now back in 2019, Sound United flew me out to Baltimore, Maryland to the Polk Audio headquarters to get a sneak peek of their brand new Legend series. Now during that trip, I had an amazing time hanging out with some of their key engineers such as Stu Lumsden and Scott Orth, as well as touring the factory and also listening to the Legend series. Now if you haven't seen that video, you can check it out in the card above as well as in the description below. Now this was an amazing trip, hearing some incredible speakers, but the reality is the L800 flagship Legend series speakers cost $6,000 a pair, and the L600 cost $3,200 a pair. And so although that series is fantastic, it's kind of out of the reach for a lot of consumers. Now I'm excited about this Reserve series because Polk took some of the same technology that they used in the Legend series and implemented it into the Reserve series, but at a much more affordable price point. Now a few weeks ago, Polk sent me 7 speakers from the Reserve series, including 2 R700 floor standing speakers, the R400 center channel, a pair of R200 bookshelf speakers, and a pair of R900 height modules. Now full disclosure, on this video, Polk Audio did send out this system for review, but they don't have any say-so in what I have to say in this video. In fact, they're not even going to see the video until you do, which is right now. Now also, myself, Techno Dad, and Joe and Tell will be making some fun video ads for this new series, so be on the lookout for those in future videos. Now speaking of Techno Dad and Joe and Tell, make sure you check out their reviews as well of the new Reserve series to see what they think of this new lineup. Now when unboxing each speaker, there are warning stickers to let you know to be careful not to damage the tweeter. Why the warning? The Reserve series has the same Pinnacle ring radiator tweeter that is used in the flagship Legend series. Now for the R700s, you'll want to flip them upside down and remove the bottom foam insert first. Next, flip them back upright and gently lift the box. I noticed the styrofoam has a curve to prevent it from hitting the tweeter, when being removed. Each speaker comes with a cloth cover, which is a nice touch. But what's with the heart stickers? You either want your customers to know how much you love them or how much you love audio. But either way, I thought that was a pretty cool gesture. So now let's take a closer look at some of the features of the new series. Each speaker has gray magnetic grills, which I think looks classy against the walnut wood grain finish. The edges of the speakers and the grills are rounded for a modern appeal. On the rear, they have two pair of nickel-plated 5-way binding posts with a jumper that can easily be removed for those that want to bi-amp or bi-wire. If we flip the speaker upside down, we see an aluminum plate with the aluminum power port 2.0 that helps with removing port noise. Check out this demonstration of the original power port from my trip to Polk headquarters just a few years ago.
Now we can actually show you measurements that show you how much the power port reduces that noise and enhances the bass output and clarity. And the way it does it is that the port is quite large for the size of the cabinet, but there's a sandwich of air down at the bottom, and this thing we call, well, it looks a little bit like a Kiss or Hershey's Kiss. Can I say that without getting in trouble? Yeah. At the bottom of the port, which helps to create laminar flow out of the port and incorporate that sandwich of air outside as part of the mass of air moving back and forth through the port, and then more gradually blend into the outside air, transitioning into a wavefront. Because remember, we have this mass of air moving back and forth, just like the cone moves back and forth, but what it needs to leave behind it is this train of energy of positive and negative moving forward.
So I'll play the Q acoustics first. You can hear how the port's performing.
Or not performing.
Or not performing. So 10 volts, 37 hertz, and then the L600.
Just nice solid bass.
Yes, sir.
Nice.
So I'll do that
Big difference.
one more time.
So
Yeah,
stupid.
that sounds nasty.
And that's a big port. Not a chunk port.
Imagine having that in your living room.
And here's the dirty little secret. This is 3 dB louder.
Nice.
So not only is it less noisy, but it's also louder at the same time. If I were to play this at the same level, you could imagine how much louder
Wow, that's night and day.
the noise would be.
Now, if we look at the bottom of the R700, you can see we have these little rubber feet. But the cool thing is they have it built in to where you can just remove the rubber feet, and now you have actual spikes. You do have the ability to adjust them as far as height. So you need to loosen this, and then you can unscrew the spike and then tighten it back down, and then that spike does not move. Now, the R200 bookshelf speakers are quite large and have a new export in the rear that helps eliminate cabinet resonances and port noise. The R900 speakers can be mounted either on top of a floor standing or a bookshelf speaker, or you can mount them to a wall using a toggle bolt and the keyhole inserts on the back. The R900 come with double-sided sticky pads to keep the speaker in place when mounted on top of your speakers. If we take a look at the back, we see a nice cutout for the speaker wire and a switch depending on whether you're mounting it on the top of a speaker or a wall mount. Now, in regards to aesthetics, I really like the way these speakers look, especially in this finish with the gray cloth grills matching up with that walnut finish. I just think that's a great color combination. Now, granted, it's not the nicest finish in the world. It's not a real wood veneer, but it does have an overall aesthetic that's pleasing to the eye, especially at a decent distance. Now, the R900 does look a little odd sitting on top of the R700, especially because it's got a much smaller footprint than the larger R700 does. And with most of the speakers in this series being available in white, black, as well as walnut, it just gives you a lot of flexibility depending on your room decor. Now let's talk about the sound. So let's start off with movies, because I love movies. I have my dedicated theater room. So I've got this set up in my room as a 5.1.2 Dolby Atmos setup. So I've got the two front speakers, center channel, two rear surrounds, and then I've got the two R900s on top of the R700s for Dolby Atmos. Now I'm just gonna say right off the bat, I'm not a huge fan of up-firing Dolby Atmos speakers. They can provide a decent amount of immersion, especially if you have 4 of them. So if I would have had another set back here on this, I think I would have got a better experience. But just having 2 up front, and especially with me having 10-foot ceilings, that's just a lot of distance, and it's just not a really great immersive experience. Now, I've always been an advocate for doing in-ceiling speakers if you can. If you can't go that route, do height speakers, which the great thing about the R900s is you can mount them as height speakers by using those keyhole inserts on the back. But I realize not everybody has the ability to cut holes in their ceiling or mount to the wall. Maybe you're renting an apartment and you just can't do that, so the up-firing topper speakers might be of value to you if you're wanting to go with Dolby Atmos. I would just highly recommend getting at least 4 of them. Now, one of the movies I demoed with this setup was Hacksaw Ridge. Now, I love Hacksaw Ridge. If you haven't seen that movie, definitely pick it up on Blu-ray or 4K. It's an incredible movie. During Hacksaw Ridge, there's just a lot of scenes where just stuff is blowing up and bullets are flying and guns are just blasting, and then the dirt is flying. All of that's going on, as well as dialogue. And so a lot of times in that movie, if you don't have a really good center channel, you're gonna miss out a lot of the detail, especially when they're trying to communicate during those loud scenes. Now, in my theater room, I tend to kind of crank it a little bit on the loud side. I really enjoy being immersed into a movie like Hacksaw Ridge. I was able to demo that movie on this setup, and it performed really, really well. Bullets that were flying, man, they were really, really detailed, coming from the towers, center channel, and surrounds. Again, the Atmos modules, they were okay. They weren't really amazing. I didn't hear a whole lot coming from my ceiling, but this center channel handled that phenomenally. Dialogue was crystal clear. I had no issues during the movie hearing any kind of dialogue during that, even during those big dramatic scenes. It did really, really well. So another thing I really enjoy in my home theater is listening to concert DVDs, Blu-rays, and 4Ks. And so 2 of those that I really enjoy is A Star Is Born, as well as Michael Jackson's This Is It. Now this one is like just high energy. There's a lot of guitars going on. There's a lot of just kind of this bass, just kind of thumping. And so I like to kind of bump it in here. And I just wanted to crank these up just to kind of see what they could do. At no point did they ever get to a point of distortion. Now, I wasn't going crazy, ridiculous SPLs, but it was probably around reference level. And so, man, but they just did a phenomenal job with that. Now, Michael's voice is kind of weird in that for whatever reason, just the way it's mixed. But the music and the energy that kind of builds up during each one of those performances, man, it was pretty exciting. I really, really, really enjoyed that. Now, I love listening to female vocals on quality speakers, and these speakers from the Reserve line did not disappoint. Lady Gaga's voice just sounded so sweet, and especially a lot of it comes from the center channel. And so once again, if you've got a center channel that's just, it's kind of weak in that department, it's just not gonna sound that great. And so with her voice, man, the center channel just locked in the image from the stage when you're watching her sing at the piano, and it just had a really, really gorgeous sound to it. It didn't sound harsh, it didn't sound muddy at all. It was very, very clean, very clear, and really kind of like just a lot of presence. And so it was like literally like she was kind of singing to me in my own home, which is always super, super cool. Now, because this room is acoustic treated and there's carpet on the floor, and then also I've got the speakers kind of away from the front wall. My cabinet is about 4 feet deep, so technically there's a good amount of space behind that. And so bass in this room with the speakers where they're at there, there's not a ton of bass because of just, like I said, the dynamics of my room and where I have the ability to place them. But one thing I wanted to find out is, what if I took these out into my living room? My living room is a much bigger area but it's got hardwood floors, and just acoustically, even though there's a lot of reverb in there, I tend to get a lot more bottom end. So I was just curious, like, what do these towers, what do they sound like? What can they produce, especially in those lower frequencies? And I even was curious, how do the bookshelves do? Now, granted, the bookshelves, they were okay, honestly. There wasn't a ton of bottom end. They didn't really dig super deep. But a lot of times in movie or in music, you don't have to have them digging really deep. But, when I was listening to kind of like hip hop or techno, and that has some lower frequencies, they did okay. Not a lot of slam to them, but it did sound, pretty pleasing for that. I think you definitely would want to pair them with a subwoofer, and with that combination, I think that would sound really good. But the towers really surprised me. I guess it shouldn't surprise me, being the fact they've got dual 8-inch drivers in each one of the speakers. But man, those little cats could thump. By all means, definitely had no problem just producing just some really chest pounding bass from these guys. And the cool thing too is, like, I just want to see kind of what can they handle, where's their breaking point. Had them pretty loud in the room, never really sounded distorted until I got like really pretty high. And then, it didn't sound super clear, but it wasn't like bottoming out or anything. So definitely overall, very pleased with these. I could see in a 2-channel setup, if you're one of those purists and you don't like to have a subwoofer, I think in the right room, like especially out there, these can produce quite a good amount of bass and reach down pretty low as well. The other caveat to that is, if you have a subwoofer, then you could run these as small and it's just going to sound even cleaner. And I think overall Polk did a great job with this series, and I believe that it's going to fit very well with a lot of home theater enthusiasts as well as 2-channel audio guys. They were able to take the best that they had from the Legend series and implement it into the Reserve series, such as using the same tweeter, the same turbine, mid-range driver, as well as that nice power port to minimize the distortion in the bottom end. And they packaged it inside a cabinet that wasn't uber expensive, with fancy veneer wood and real wood veneer, but it still looks very appealing to the eye. Now I'll post a link down in the description below to the entire series so you can check out all the specs and details on their website. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure you like and subscribe. And as always, you guys be blessed, and we'll catch you in the next video.